The Kryn Nebula glowed like a dying fire in the darkness of space. Inside its clouds of gas and dust, the Dominion had built their secret weapon. The strike force had been traveling for 3 weeks, moving carefully through territory controlled by species that might or might not shoot at them. Captain Daewon stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching the nebula grow closer. Around him, 40 ships from 8 different species maintained formation. Humans, Chirrut, Gorvan, Deleth, and 4 species that had recently joined the Alliance. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not return. "Contact ahead," reported the sensor officer. "Dominion patrol, 6 ships." Before Daewon could give orders, his communication lit up. A coded message. When decoded, it said simply, "Safe passage coordinates attached. Some of us still believe." Signed, Captain Melthra. Melthra, the Vraxian who had defected during the Battle of New Haven. She was still in the Dominion fleet, still working secretly against the hardliners. The coordinates she provided would take them around the patrol. "Follow those coordinates," Daewon ordered, "and send a thank you message." They slipped past the patrol without incident. As they moved deeper into the nebula, more secret messages arrived. Other Dominion officers, uncomfortable with what their government was doing, provided sensor gaps and patrol schedules. The moderates in the Dominion were helping, even though it meant betraying their own side. It took 2 more days to reach the weapon facility. When they finally saw it, everyone went quiet. The station was massive, built into an asteroid. Dozens of Dominion ships guarded it. Energy readings suggested the weapon inside was nearly complete. "That's more defenders than we expected," said Commander Jin Ho, who led the Deleth contingent. "This won't be easy." "Nothing worthwhile ever is," Daewon replied. "All ships attack pattern Omega-3. Hit them fast, hit them hard, and get to that station." The battle began with missiles lighting up the nebula like fireworks. The Dominion defenders reacted quickly, but the Alliance ships fought with practiced coordination. Chirrut fighters danced through enemy formations. Deleth cruisers absorbed damage while human destroyers struck at weak points. Gorvan weapons tore through shields with precision, but the Dominion had numbers and strong defenses. Ships on both sides exploded. Pilots died. Warriors sacrificed themselves to protect their squad mates. The void filled with debris and silent screams. Daewon led a boarding team toward the station. Their ship took heavy fire, but they made it to the docking port. The team included humans, Chirrut, Gorvan, and Deleth, 20 warriors total, moving to disable a weapon that could destroy worlds. They fought through the station corridors. Dominion guards tried to stop them, but the mixed species team was too effective. Humans used strategy. Chirrut used speed. Gorvan used technical knowledge to override security. Deleth used raw strength. Together they reached the weapon's core chamber. The weapon itself was terrifying, a massive machine that could channel energy from a star and focus it into a beam capable of sterilizing planets. The scientists working on it fled when the boarding team arrived. But one person remained. Commander Talvor stood in the center of the chamber, the Vraxian who had led the attack on New Haven. He looked older than before, tired. His hand rested on a weapon, but he did not draw it. "Captain Daewon," Talvor said, "I wondered if it would be you." "Stand aside, Commander. We're here to destroy this weapon. I cannot do that. I have my orders." But Talvor's voice lacked conviction. Daewon stepped forward alone. His team stayed back but ready. "You saw what happened at New Haven. Your own people defected because they knew what you were doing was wrong. How many more battles will you fight for a cause you no longer believe in?" Talvor's hand tightened on his weapon, then relaxed. "I was a young officer once, full of ideals. I believed the Dominion brought order to chaos. But order built on slavery isn't order. It's just organized cruelty. I forgot that somewhere along the way. It's not too late to remember." For a long moment, Talvor was silent. Then he moved to the weapons control panel. "The core can be overloaded. It will destroy the station, but the explosion can be controlled. You'll have 10 minutes to evacuate." "Why help us now?" Daewon asked. "Because I'm tired of being a monster. Because maybe at the end I can do one thing right." Talvor began entering commands. "Go, get your people out." Daewon hesitated. "Come with us." "No, someone needs to make sure this happens correctly. And I have much to atone for." "This is my choice, now go!" The boarding team ran. Behind them, Talvor worked at the controls. Dominion guards burst into the chamber and opened fire. Talvor took several hits but kept working. With his last breath, he completed the sequence. The weapon's core began to overload. Day-One and his team reached their ship and launched just as explosions started tearing through the station. Outside, the battle continued. The Dominion defenders realized what was happening and tried to pull back, but it was too late. The weapon station exploded with the force of a small star. The blast wave destroyed half the Dominion fleet and damaged many Alliance ships. But it was controlled as Talvor had promised. The Alliance fleet could escape. All ships retreat, Day-One ordered. We've done what we came to do. Time to go home. The journey back took 4 weeks. They had lost 12 ships and hundreds of warriors. But they had succeeded. The weapon was destroyed, and word of that destruction spread across the galaxy faster than the ships could travel. The news hit the Dominion like a bomb. The hardliners had promised this weapon would crush all resistance. Now it was gone, destroyed by the very alliance they claimed was weak. More species began openly questioning Dominion authority. Within 2 days of the strike force's return, 4 major Dominion species formally contacted Ambassador Tae Young. They wanted to join the alliance of the Acknowledged. The Dominion Empire was crumbling. The remaining Dominion Council called for emergency peace talks. The hardliners had lost all credibility. The moderates took control and sued for peace. They had no choice. Half their empire was ready to rebel. The negotiations took 3 months. They were difficult and sometimes angry, but Sojin's governmental framework provided a model that worked. The new Galactic Accord was built on principles of equal dignity for all species, regardless of size or power. Ambassador Tae Yang, now an old woman, oversaw the final drafting. Representatives from 47 species gathered to sign the document. It was called the Treaty of Acknowledgement. Every being in the galaxy would be seen, heard, and valued. The Dominion Council dissolved itself. The species that had ruled for centuries agreed to become equals among many. It was a peaceful end to an empire built on oppression. Captain Day-One attended the signing ceremony but did not speak. He stood in the back watching. Hana found him there. "You should be up front," she said. "You started all this." "I just helped some people who needed it," Day-One replied. "Everything else followed from that." "Exactly," Hana smiled. "You prove that doing what's right matters more than doing what's practical." The galaxy learned that from watching humans, from watching you. Day-One retired from military service after the treaty signing. He became an instructor, teaching integrated multi-species tactics to new officers. Students from a dozen worlds learned from him. He taught them combat skills, but more importantly, he taught them that honor meant protecting those who could not protect themselves. Lieutenant Hana, now Admiral Hana, commanded all Alliance defense forces. She was brilliant at her job, combining strategies from multiple species into something new and effective. Under her leadership, the Alliance military became the finest in the galaxy. Vecthra returned to her homeworld with a fleet of liberation ships. The Chirik had suffered under Dominion rule for generations. Now they were free. She established the first Chirik-human joint colony, a place where both species learned from each other. Rathkin led his people in rebuilding their civilization. The Daleth had been warriors for so long they had forgotten how to be anything else. Now they learned. They became artists, teachers, builders, but they never forgot how to fight, and they always stood ready to defend the Alliance. Dr. Bora received the Galactic Science Medal for her work in multi-species medicine. She was the first human to receive the honor. Her research saved millions of lives across dozens of species. Ambassador Tai Yang lived to see the Alliance flourish. In her final years, she was called the Founder by people across the galaxy. When she died at 97, 47 different species declared days of mourning. Her statue was erected on 20 worlds, always showing her with her arms open, welcoming all who came seeking freedom. 10 years after the treaty signing, a ceremony was held at New Haven Station to commemorate the Battle of New Haven. Thousands gathered. Veterans from that battle, now older, stood together. Humans, Chirik, Gorvan, Daleth, and many others. They had aged together, lived together, built something new together. Day-One was invited to speak. He was gray now, his face lined with time, but his eyes were still sharp and kind. A young Chirik student approached him after the ceremony. "Captain Day-One," the student said through her translator, "I study your decisions in school. We learn about when you saved the first refugees. My teacher says you had nothing to gain and much to lose. Why did you help them?" 3 months after the Battle of New Haven, everything had changed. Human space was no longer just human. 16 different species now called it home. The challenge now was making them work together as one. Captain Day-Wan walked through the corridors of New Haven Station and heard a dozen different languages. Chirik children played with human children. Gorvan engineers worked beside Deleth warriors to repair damaged sections. It was beautiful and chaotic. A human sociologist named So-Jin had been given an impossible job. She had to design a government that worked for all 16 species. Each species had different needs, different cultures, different ways of making decisions. It's like building a house where every room needs different gravity, So-Jin explained to Day-Wan one day. But I think I have an idea. What if we don't try to make everyone the same? What if we build a system that respects differences? Explain, Day-Wan said. Each species sends representatives based on their population, but every species gets equal voting power on major decisions regardless of size. No one can be outvoted just because they're few in number. Everyone gets acknowledged, So-Jin smiled. We call it the Alliance of the Acknowledged. The name stuck. Within a week, everyone was using it. Ambassador Taiyang presented the plan to representatives from all 16 species. The debate lasted 3 days. Some worried humans would have too much influence. Others worried their species would be ignored. But slowly, agreement formed. This is different from the Dominion, Vectra said during the debate. They rule through fear and force. This alliance asks us to rule ourselves together. That's harder, but it's better. While the political work continued, something unexpected happened. A stranger arrived at New Haven Station. He was Raxian, one of the Dominion's ruling species. His name was Mekthar, and he came alone in a small ship. I was a Dominion administrator for 40 years, Mekthar told the council. His voice was heavy with shame. I helped organize the work colonies. I filed the reports that classified species as second class. I did terrible things because I believed in the system. But watching the Battle of New Haven changed me. I cannot fix what I did, but I can help you prepare for what's coming. Why should we trust you? Rathkin asked, his hand on his weapon. You shouldn't, Mekthar said simply, but I have information you need. The Dominion Council is split. 5 species want total war against you. 4 want negotiation. 3 are undecided. And there are 5 more species that are secretly talking about joining your alliance. Hana leaned forward. Which 5? Mekthar told them. The news was stunning. If 5 more species joined, especially species from inside the Dominion, the balance of power would shift dramatically. There's more, Mekthar said. The hardliners are building something. A weapon. I don't know all the details, but I know where the facility is. In the Kryn Nebula. Day-Wan felt ice in his stomach. A secret weapon. That was never good news. The council decided to accept Mekthar's help, but with caution. He was kept under guard and his information was checked carefully. Everything he said proved true. The Dominion was fracturing and a secret weapon was under construction. But internal problems threatened the alliance too. Old hatreds between species surfaced. The Chirik and another species called the Venth had fought wars centuries ago. Now they lived on the same stations. Tensions rose. Fights broke out. Day-Wan and Rathkin worked to calm the situation. They held meetings. They listened to grievances. They reminded everyone that the Dominion wanted them to fight each other. Unity was their only strength. Then something happened that brought everyone together in grief. A saboteur planted bombs on 3 different stations. The explosions killed 17 people. Humans, Chirik, Gorvan, Deleth, and others died together. The alliance was shocked. Who would do this? Day-Wan and Vectra investigated. They followed clues, interviewed witnesses, and checked security recordings. What they found made everything clear. It's a Dominion Black Operations team, Vectra reported to the council. They're here to break us apart from the inside. Make us suspicious of each other. Destroy trust. Then we show them that won't work, Hana said. We find them together. The hunt took 2 weeks. Mixed teams of humans and aliens worked side by side. They shared information. They trusted each other. Finally, they cornered the saboteurs in a warehouse on Mars. The fight was brief and brutal. The Dominion agents fought hard, but they were outnumbered. When it ended, the saboteurs were captured. But there were casualties. Lokmar, the Gorvan engineer who had designed so many hybrid weapons, was killed protecting a human child who had wandered too close to the fighting. His death devastated everyone. Lokamar had become a symbol of what the Alliance could achieve. His funeral was attended by thousands. Humans, Chirik, Gorvin, Deleth, and all the other species came together to mourn. Ambassador Tay Yang spoke at the funeral. Lokamar died protecting a child who was not his species, on a world that was not his home, fighting for an alliance that was only a few months old. He did this because he understood something fundamental. We are stronger together. We are better together, and that is worth protecting even with our lives. Lokamar's death did not break the alliance. It strengthened it. The species that had been fighting set aside their differences. The memorial gardens on every station were named after him. His designs continued to be used and improved by engineers from a dozen species working together, but the threat of the secret weapon remained. Counselor Il-sung, a human representative, argued for action. "We can't wait for them to finish building whatever this weapon is," he said. "We need to take the offensive. That means attacking into Dominion space," Sojin pointed out. It could be seen as aggression. It might push the undecided species toward the hardliners. Mekthar shook his head. The moderates in the Dominion are already losing ground. If this weapon is completed, they'll use it. You have to strike now. The vote was close, but the decision was made. The Alliance would launch a preemptive attack on the weapon facility. It was risky. It could end in disaster, but waiting seemed worse. Daewon was chosen to lead the mission. It made sense. He had started everything by rescuing those first refugees. Now he would lead the strike that might determine the Alliance's future. As preparations began, more good news arrived. 2 of the 5 species Mekthar had mentioned officially joined the Alliance. They brought ships, technology, and hope. The Alliance of the Acknowledged now had 18 member species. Hana was promoted to Supreme Military Coordinator. She would manage all Alliance forces while Daewon was on the mission. It was a huge responsibility for someone so young, but no one doubted her ability. Dr. Bora made a breakthrough in her research. She discovered that different species' immune systems could help each other. Medical technology that combined treatments from multiple species could cure diseases that no single species could cure alone. It was another example of how diversity created strength. Vecthra approached Daewon the night before he was scheduled to leave. "This mission is dangerous, human captain. The Kryn Nebula is deep in Dominion territory. You may not return." "I know," Daewon said. "Why do you go then?" "You could send someone else," Daewon thought about the question. "I started this. Those first refugees trusted me. Every being that came after trusted what we were building. If I ask others to risk everything, I need to be willing to do the same." Vecthra touched his shoulder with one of her 4 hands. It was a Chirik gesture of deep respect. "You understand honor, Captain. Not the false honor of pride and dominance the Dominion claims. Real honor. The honor of service and sacrifice." The strike force assembled over the next week. 40 ships from 8 different species. The best pilots, the best warriors, the best engineers. They would penetrate deep into enemy territory, destroy the weapon, and escape. At least that was the plan. On the day of departure, the entire Alliance gathered to see them off. Stations and ships broadcast the moment across all their worlds. Young and old, human and alien, they watched as the strike force prepared to launch. Ambassador Tay Yang gave a short speech. "You carry our hopes with you. You carry our future. But know this. Win or lose, you have already achieved something remarkable. You have proven that beings from different worlds, with different bodies and different cultures, can stand together. That truth cannot be destroyed no matter what happens. Go with our blessing. Go with our love. And come home." The strike force launched, heading toward Dominion space. Behind them, the Alliance of the Acknowledged waited and hoped. Ahead of them lay the most dangerous mission any of them had ever attempted. But they went together, and that made all the difference. The Dominion fleet stopped just outside weapons range. On the bridge of the Resolute, Daewon watched and waited. Admiral Jiwoo commanded the defense from New Haven Station. She was 70 years old and had fought in every major human conflict. Her gray hair was pulled back tight. Her eyes missed nothing. "All ships hold position," Jiwoo's voice came through clearly. "Let them make the first move." A communication came through from the Dominion fleet. The face that appeared was cold and proud. Talvor, a Vraxian fleet commander, looked at them with something like pity. "Human forces, you are outnumbered 500 ships to 80. You have stolen Dominion property and harbor fugitives. Surrender immediately. Your people will be allowed to live if you comply now. Admiral Jiwoo responded, her voice calm. These are not property. They are free beings under our protection. Leave our space now. This is your only warning. Talavor's expression did not change. Then you choose death. So be it. The screen went dark. The Dominion fleet moved forward, weapons charging. Day One gripped his command chair. All stations ready. Here they come. On New Haven Station, a young communications officer named Young Mi began broadcasting. Her voice went out across the galaxy on every frequency humans could reach. This is New Haven Station. The Dominion fleet has begun their attack. We fight today for freedom, for dignity, for the right of all beings to live without fear. If we fall, remember that we stood for something true. The first Dominion missiles launched. Hundreds of them, streaking across space like angry stars. Admiral Jiwoo's orders came fast. Pattern Delta 7. Execute now. The human fleet split into 3 groups, moving in patterns the Dominion did not expect. Chirrut fighters launched from carriers, their pilots moving with incredible reflexes. Tleth warships charged forward, absorbing hits meant for the smaller human vessels. Gorvan weapon systems fired with precision, targeting Dominion missiles before they reached their targets. The battle filled space with fire and light. Daewon saw one human destroyer take a direct hit. It broke apart, pieces spinning into the dark. But 2 Dominion frigates fell to concentrated fire from Deleth cruisers. The fight was brutal and fast. Talvor watched from his flagship with growing confusion. The human fleet fought differently than any he had faced. They moved like water, flowing around his attacks. Different species worked together in ways that should not be possible. Chirrut fighters distracted his ships while human missiles struck from unexpected angles. Deleth warships rammed damaged Dominion vessels, sacrificing themselves to protect others. Admiral, their tactics make no sense, one of Talvor's officers said. They use strategies from 6 different species simultaneously. They're learning from each other, Talvor realized. The slaves are teaching them. He felt a chill. The Dominion had always kept species separate for exactly this reason. On the Resolute, Hana coordinated the fighter wings. Vectra sat beside her, offering guidance based on Chirrut combat experience. There, that cruiser is exposed. Hit it now while its shields rotate. Human pilots followed her direction. Missiles struck true. The cruiser's engines died, leaving it drifting. But the Dominion had numbers. For every ship they lost, they had 5 more. Slowly, inevitably, they pushed forward. Human ships fell back toward New Haven Station, fighting every meter of the way. Lockmar worked frantically in the engineering section of the Resolute. His hybrid weapons were performing better than expected, but they were overheating. He needed more time to fix them, but time was something they did not have. A massive explosion rocked the station. A Dominion battlecruiser had broken through the defensive line. Its weapons tore into New Haven's shields. Families inside huddled in shelters, hearing the distant sounds of damage. Children cried. Parents held them close. Admiral Jiwoo's voice remained steady. All remaining ships form a wall between that cruiser and the station. We hold this line. Rathkin's flagship charged forward. The Deleth warriors roared their battle cry, a sound that made the communication channels vibrate. They crashed into the Dominion cruiser, weapons blazing at point-blank range. The cruiser's shields collapsed. But Rathkin's ship took terrible damage too. Rathkin, pull back. Daewon shouted into the communication. Not yet, human captain. Not yet. Rathkin's ship fired everything it had. The Dominion cruiser broke apart, its reactor exploding in a brilliant flash. But the Deleth flagship was dying too. Atmosphere venting from dozens of holes. All crew to escape pods. Rathkin ordered his people. Get them out. Daewon watched as dozens of small pods ejected from the dying Deleth ship. Human and Chirrut vessels moved in quickly to recover them. They saved most of the crew, but not all. 50 Deleth warriors died to stop that cruiser. Young Mai's broadcast continued from the station. Deleth warriors sacrificed themselves to protect the refugees on this station. The Dominion calls them slaves. We call them heroes. The galaxy is watching. Remember what you see here today. Across the galaxy, on 100 different worlds, people watched the battle. Some were Dominion citizens, uncomfortable with what their government was doing. Others were enslaved species watching with desperate hope. The broadcast showed humans and aliens fighting side by side, dying for each other, protecting the weak together. The battle raged for 3 more hours. Human forces fell back to their final defensive positions around New Haven. They were down to 40 ships. Ammunition ran low. Shields failed. But they held the line. Talvor prepared for the final assault. His fleet had suffered more losses than expected, but victory was certain. He would crush this rebellion and send a message to any others who thought to challenge the Dominion. Then something unexpected happened. 3 ships in Talvor's fleet stopped firing. They broke formation. Talvor's screen filled with the face of a Vraxian captain named Melthra. "Commander Talvor, I cannot do this anymore," Melthra said. Her voice shook with emotion. "We're killing people who only wanted to be free. We're attacking those who showed mercy to the weak. This is not honor. This is not what our ancestors fought for. I will not fire another shot." 2 other captains appeared on the screen. One was Vraxian, like Melthra. The other was from a different Dominion species called the Korthan. "We stand with Captain Melthra," they said together. "We will not be part of genocide." The 3 ships turned. Their weapons targeted their former allies. Chaos erupted in the Dominion fleet. Ships scattered, unsure who was friend and who was enemy. Talvor screamed orders, but the confusion spread. Admiral Jiwoo saw the opportunity. "All ships, attack now. Push forward." The Human Alliance fleet surged ahead. Tired, damaged ships found new strength. They crashed into the confused Dominion formation. Daewon led the Resolute straight at Talvor's flagship. "Lokmar, I need everything you've got." Daewon shouted, "Firing now." Lokmar unleashed every weapon. The hybrid Gorvan-human technology hit the Dominion flagship's shields. They flickered and failed. Human missiles followed, striking the exposed hull. Talvor's flagship shook. Fires broke out. He stood on his damaged bridge and realized he had lost. Not because humans were stronger, but because they had done something the Dominion thought impossible. They had inspired others to remember their own conscience. "All ships retreat," Talvor ordered. His voice was bitter. "Fall back to Dominion space." The Dominion fleet withdrew, leaving behind debris and damaged ships. The 3 defecting vessels joined the human fleet. On New Haven Station, alarms fell silent. People emerged from shelters slowly, afraid to believe it was over. Young Me's broadcast carried the news across the galaxy. "The Dominion fleet has retreated. We have won." 3 Dominion vessels defected during the battle, choosing conscience over orders. The galaxy has seen what happens when people stand together for what is right. Daewon slumped in his command chair, exhausted. Hana smiled beside him, tears running down her face. They had lost 30 ships. Thousands had died, but they had survived. They had won. Rathkin appeared on the screen, his face bloodied but grinning. "Well fought, human captain. Well fought." Vecthra stood on the bridge of a Chirrut vessel, her forearms raised in victory. Lokmar was already making lists of repairs needed. Dr. Bora prepared to treat the wounded. Ambassador Tai Yang received reports that 13 more species had sent messages. They wanted to join the alliance. They wanted to be free. The Battle of New Haven had shown them it was possible. On his flagship, as it limped back to Dominion space, Talvor watched the battle recordings. He saw humans and aliens protecting each other. He saw species the Dominion called inferior fighting with honor and skill. He saw his own people choosing a different path. Something inside him cracked. Something he thought had died long ago. The Dominion Council convened an emergency session. The Empire was fracturing, and it had all started because one human captain decided to save people who needed help. 6 months passed since the blockade began. Life in human space changed. Food cost more. Ship fuel was harder to find. Medicine ran low. But the people held together. Every human colony worked to support the refugees who kept arriving. Captain Daewon stood in the command center of New Haven Station, humanity's largest orbital platform. Lieutenant Hana worked beside him, managing the constant flow of refugee ships. 3 more had arrived just that morning. "We're at capacity, Captain," Hana said, looking at her datapad. "We have housing for maybe another 100 people. After that, I don't know where they'll go." Daewon rubbed his tired eyes. "We'll figure something out." "We always do." A young officer approached. "Sir, Dr. Bora wants to see you in the medical section. She says it's important." Dr. Bora was a specialist in alien biology. She had been working day and night to understand how to treat all the different species now living in human space. When Daewon arrived at her lab, he found her excited. "I've discovered something amazing," Bora said, pulling up images on her screen. "Each species has unique abilities. The Chirrut can survive in very low oxygen. The Gorvan can see heat signatures. Humans adapt quickly to new situations. But when we work together, when we combine our strengths, we can do things no single species can do alone. Give me an example, Daewon said. Chiric reflexes plus human strategic thinking makes for perfect fighter pilots. Gorvan technical knowledge plus human creativity makes new technology possible. We're stronger together. Bora smiled. The Dominion keeps species separate on purpose. They never let them combine their abilities. That's their weakness. Before Daewon could respond, alarms sounded throughout the station. Hana's voice came over the communication system. Captain to the command center immediately. We have a situation, Daewon ran. When he reached the command center, he saw why. On the main screen was a fleet of ships. But these were not small refugee transports. These were warships. Big ones. They're Deleth, Hana said. A warrior species. The Dominion uses them as soldiers. Daewon watched as the fleet approached. There were at least 50 ships. Are they here to attack? I don't think so, sir. They're broadcasting a message. It's for you. The main screen changed. A massive figure appeared. The Deleth looked like a cross between a bear and a lizard. He had scars across his face and arms. His eyes were intelligent and fierce. I am Rathkin, commander of the Deleth 7th Fleet, he said. His voice was deep and strong. We have broken our chains. We will no longer fight for the Dominion. We have heard what humans did for the Chiric and Gorvan. We come seeking the same. Asylum, freedom, a chance to be more than weapons. Daewon felt his heart race. 50 Deleth warships joining them would change everything, but it would also make the Dominion very angry. How many of you are there? Daewon asked. 2,000 warriors, 500 engineers and support crew, 3,500 family members, 7,000 total. Rathkin leaned forward. We know this is much to ask, but we had to try. If humans can stand against the Dominion for people they barely knew, perhaps they will stand with us too. Daewon looked at Hana. She nodded. He looked around the command center at his crew. They all nodded. You're welcome here, Rathkin. All of you. Within hours, the Deleth fleet docked at various human stations. The arrival of so many warriors caused worry among some humans, but Rathkin kept his people disciplined. They helped with work. They shared their food supplies. They proved they came in peace. Ambassador Tae Yang called an emergency meeting. On the screen were faces from Earth, Mars, the outer colonies, and now representatives from the refugee species. The Dominion Council has declared us a rogue state, Tae Yang said. His face was serious. They claim we are harboring stolen military assets. They've authorized military action against us. A representative from Mars spoke up. How long do we have? Intelligence suggests they're assembling a strike fleet. We have maybe 2 months before they arrive. Tae Yang paused. They'll outnumber our forces 10 to 1. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. They might lose everything. Rathkin stood up. He had been invited to the meeting as leader of the Deleth refugees. I know Dominion military tactics. I fought for them for 30 years. My people can train yours. We can teach you what we know. That's not enough, said Minister Kyung-soo, the defense coordinator. Even with training, we're still outnumbered badly. Perhaps not alone, Rathkin said. Before we escaped, I made contact with other enslaved species. The Nelth, the Prixians, the Horth, 7 species total. They're ready to rebel. But they need proof that rebellion can succeed. They need to see someone win against the Dominion first. Hana stood up. Then we give them that proof. We show them that the Dominion can be beaten. Daewon met with Rathkin and Vectra every day for the next month. They planned defenses. They trained mixed crews of humans and aliens to fight together. The Deleth taught humans their combat techniques. The Chiric shared their zero-gravity warfare skills. The Gorvan worked with human engineers to upgrade weapons and shields. Lokmar, the Gorvan engineer, worked 20 hours a day. He combined Gorvan technology with human designs. The results surprised everyone. New weapons that could punch through Dominion shields, new engines that were faster and used less fuel, new sensors that could detect enemy ships from farther away. The Dominion never wanted us to innovate. Lokmar explained to a group of human engineers. They wanted us to only maintain what already exists. But we always had ideas. We just never had the freedom to try them. As the weeks passed, more refugee ships arrived. Not many, but a steady flow. Each one brought stories. Stories of Dominion cruelty. Stories of hope that humanity might change things. Stories of other species watching and waiting. Hana spent her evenings working with Vectra. The Chirrut warrior taught her combat philosophy. The Chirrut believed in fluid movement, in using an opponent's strength against them. Hana adapted these ideas into space combat tactics. Your people learn quickly, Vectra said one night. Most species are set in their ways. Humans seem to absorb new ideas like water into sand. Maybe because we've always been the underdogs, Hana replied. We learn to adapt or die. Now we're teaching that to others. Ambassador Taeyang received secret messages from inside Dominion space. 3 species had members who disagreed with the coming attack. They did not say they would help, but they expressed doubt. That was something. One message came from a Vraxian admiral. What you do is foolish, but it is also brave. Some of us remember when we believed in more than power. Some of us are tired of being the monsters our ancestors never meant us to become. Daewon did not sleep well during those weeks. The weight of what was coming pressed on him. Late at night, he would walk through the station and see human families living next to Chirrut families living next to Gorvan families, children of different species playing together, adults learning each other's languages, hope growing despite the coming storm. Rathkin found him during one of these walks. You carry much weight, human captain. Everyone's counting on us, Daewon said. What if we're not enough? Then we fall together, Rathkin said simply. But we fall free. That's more than most species in this galaxy can say. My people were slaves for 300 years. Now we're warriors fighting for something we believe in. If we die with honor. The Dominion can never take that away. 2 months after Rathkin arrived, the sensors picked up the Dominion fleet. It was huge. Hundreds of ships. Battlecruisers, destroyers, fighters. They entered human space with their weapons hot and their message clear. Surrender or be destroyed. Every human ship, every Deleth warship, every armed transport gathered at New Haven Station. Daewon stood on the bridge of the Resolute, looking at the force they had assembled. It was impressive. They had worked miracles in 2 months. But would it be enough? All ships report ready, Hana said. Her voice was steady, but Daewon could hear the tension underneath. Then we go meet them, Daewon said. Send a message to all vessels. Today we fight not for territory or power. We fight for the right of every being to live free and be treated with dignity. That's worth dying for. That's worth everything. The fleet moved forward. Behind them, on New Haven Station, thousands of refugees watched. They prayed to their different gods. They hoped. They waited, and the Dominion fleet came closer, ready to crush this small rebellion before it could inspire others. The battle that would change the galaxy was about to begin. The stars looked the same as they always did, but Captain Daewon knew something was wrong. His ship, the UES Resolute, had picked up a distress signal from the edge of neutral space. It was weak and broken, but it was there. He stood on the bridge, looking at the screen in front of him. Lieutenant Hana, what do you have? He asked. Hana looked up from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls. It's a transport ship, Captain. The signal says it's damaged. Life signs are present, but the ship is losing power. Daewon nodded. Set a course. We go help them. The crew moved to follow his orders. The Resolute turned and headed toward the signal. It took 3 hours to reach the damaged ship. When they arrived, what they saw made everyone on the bridge go quiet. The transport was old and broken. Holes covered its hull. It drifted in space, dark and silent except for the weak distress signal. Daewon could see small faces pressed against the windows. They were not human faces. Captain, I'm reading 300 life forms on that ship, Hana said. Her voice was soft. They're Chirrut and Gorvan. Both species are classified as second class by the Dominion Council. Daewon knew what that meant. The Dominion Council ruled most of the galaxy. They had 12 powerful species in charge. Everyone else was either ignored or used. The Chirrut looked like insects with 4 arms and hard shells. The Gorvan were reptiles, strong and smart with machines. Both were treated like tools by the Dominion, not like people. Prepare rescue operations, Daewon said. Get everyone off that ship. One of the younger officers spoke up. Sir, protocol says we need to contact the Dominion first. These might be escaped workers, or they're people who need help, Daewon interrupted. We save them first. Questions come later. The rescue took 5 hours. The crew of the Resolute worked hard. They brought over everyone from the transport. The refugees were scared and tired. Many were hurt. Some were children. Dr. Minsu, the ship's doctor, set up the medical bay to handle them all. It was not easy because Chirrut and Gorvan bodies were very different from human bodies. One of the refugees, a Chirrut warrior named Vectra, spoke with Daiwan. Her voice came through a translator device. "You are human?" she asked. Her large eyes studied him carefully. "Yes," Daiwan said. "You're safe now. What happened to your ship?" Vectra's antenna moved in a way that showed sadness. "We ran. The Dominion was moving us to a work colony. They said it was for efficiency. But we heard stories. Species that go to those colonies never come back. So we stole a transport and ran." "How many of you?" Daiwan asked. 300 on this ship. But there are others. Many others still trapped. Vectra looked at the floor. "We had hope that someone might help. Most species just send us back. They fear the Dominion too much." Before Daiwan could respond, Hana called him to the bridge. A message had come through. It was from the Dominion Council itself. The face on the screen belonged to a Vraxian, one of the ruling species. His skin was smooth and blue. His eyes were cold. "Human vessel Resolute," the Vraxian said. "You have taken possession of Dominion property. Return the workers immediately or face consequences." Daiwan felt anger rise in his chest. "These are not property. They are refugees seeking asylum. The Dominion does not recognize human authority to grant asylum. Return them within 12 hours. The screen went dark. Hana stood beside Daiwan. "What do we do, Captain?" "We take them home," Daiwan said. "To Earth, to safety." The journey back to human space took 4 days. During that time, Daiwan spoke with many of the refugees. A Gorvan engineer named Lockmar showed him designs for technology that could help human ships. The Gorvan were brilliant with machines, but the Dominion never let them build anything new. "They only fixed what broke. Why do you help us?" Lockmar asked one day. "Humans are small in the galaxy. The Dominion can hurt you." Daiwan thought about the question. "My grandmother used to say that how you treat those who can't help you back shows who you really are. These people need help. That's enough." When the Resolute reached Earth, news of the refugees had already spread. Ambassador Taeyang met the ship at the station. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had worked in galactic politics for 30 years. "Daiwan," Taeyang said as they walked through the station. "Do you know what you've started?" "I saved people who needed saving," Daiwan replied. "You've challenged the Dominion Council's authority over second-class species. They're demanding we return the refugees. The human government is meeting now to decide what to do." "There's nothing to decide. We don't send people back to slavery." Taeyang smiled a little. "I agree. But this will cost us. The Dominion controls most galactic trade, most technology. If we refuse them, we'll be alone." The government meeting happened in a large room filled with representatives from all human colonies. Daiwan was asked to speak. He stood in front of hundreds of people and told them what he saw. The fear in the refugees' eyes. The children holding their parents. The hope that maybe someone would finally care. "They came to us because they had nowhere else to go," Daiwan said. "Every other species turned them away. If we do the same, what does that make us?" The debate went on for hours. Some argued that humanity could not afford to anger the Dominion. Others said that principles mattered more than convenience. Finally, the vote came. Humanity would grant asylum to the refugees. They would invite any species being persecuted to come to human space. They would stand for what was right, even if it cost them everything. Ambassador Taeyang made the announcement to the Dominion Council the next day. The message was simple and clear. These people are under human protection now. Any species seeking freedom is welcome in our space. We will not negotiate on this. The response came quickly. The Dominion Council declared an economic blockade on all human worlds. No trade, no technology sharing, no diplomatic contact. Humanity was cut off. On the Resolute, Vectra found Daiwan in the observation deck. He was looking out at Earth below. "Your people voted to protect us," she said. "Even though it hurts you." "Yes," Daiwan said. "Why?" Daiwan turned to her. "Because it's right. And because someone has to be first. Someone has to show that there's another way." Vectra was quiet for a moment. "There are others like us. Many species suffering under Dominion rule. They will hear what humans did today. Some will not believe it, but some will hope. And hope is a dangerous thing for empires built on fear." Over the next weeks, more ships came. Small groups at first. 12 Chirrut here, 20 Gorvan there. Then larger groups. The humans struggled to house them all and feed them all. Resources ran low. But the people did not complain. They shared what they had. In a small apartment on Mars, a human family shared their home with a Gorvan couple and their child. In the asteroid mines, human workers taught Chirrut refugees how to operate equipment. On every world, humans and refugees worked together, learning from each other. Ambassador Tai Yang received a secret message one night. It came from a member of one of the Dominion species. The message was short. Some of us are watching what you do. Some of us are ashamed of our leaders. Keep going. You are not as alone as you think. Day One never saw that message, but he would have smiled if he had, because he knew that doing the right thing always plants seeds. Sometimes those seeds grow in unexpected places. The blockade continued. Human colonies struggled, but no one suggested giving up the refugees. They had made their choice. Now they would live with it, whatever came next.